Perspective presents the Author's Corner.
Sarah, madam, will you read my book? It took me years to write. Will you take a look? It's based on a novel by a man named Lear, and I need a job, so I want to be a paperback writer. Paperback writer.
Hello and welcome to the second program in the Author's Corner series. My name is Jerry Perona. Today we're actually in a new location. We're in my home, and we have with us today Margo Drummond, who I met for the first time this morning. Many of you may know her already. She's been a teacher in Racine Unified at Washington Park for several years. She has been active in Preservation Racine and the Racine Historical Society and the Racine Public Library and many others. She's an authority on death and dying, and she has also had several publications already. One was on the Mound Cemetery. She also has published a book on death and dying. And she has also published a book recently, the one we're going to talk about today. This book, Here's to Your Health. It's a story of the Horlick family here in Racine. So welcome, Margo. Now, Margo has been involved extensively in researching history of Racine, even though she was originally from Kansas. True. So what sparked your interest in Racine's history?
Well, I've always loved history, and especially local history. And when I was teaching at Case High School before I went to Washington Park, they needed a course for some of the students that would get them interested in history. And I decided that local history would probably be something that they might find of interest, more of a hands-on sort of thing. So I developed a course called Racine History, and from there I just continued gathering information and became immersed in the subject myself.
Now, in this book, Margo, you state that the story of the Horlick family is one that should have been told and needed to be told. So what first got you interested in the Horlick family?
Well, I was also teaching a course called Death and Dying, and for both of those courses I would walk my students through the cemetery, and on those walking tours we passed the Horlick Mausoleum. And I noticed that 4 times a year at least there were fresh flowers on the mausoleum. And that kind of piqued my interest in the family, that there might be family members remaining. And I also noticed in my research on local history that there was very little, if anything, written on the Horlicks. And that kind of surprised me, since they had been such a prominent force within the community and actually globally as well. So I decided to start gathering information on them and eventually put it into a book form.
Now, it's certainly evident when one reads this book that a lot of time went into researching the book. You have pictures, and you even made a trip to England to discover whatever you could about the Horlick family. How long did it take you to research for this book, and did anybody in the Horlick family help you with it?
I would say it probably took between 10 and 12 years to gather the information. And as far as the family is concerned, I was not able to locate any family members within the United States other than a distant cousin. He put me in touch with some relatives in England and Scotland, and they were most cooperative in helping me in any way that they could. And they were also fascinated with the American side of the family, something that they didn't know too much about.
Now, I'm familiar with Horlick Malted Milk or Horlick Malted products from when I was a child. But I'm assuming the younger people watching this show aren't quite as familiar with Horlick Malted products. So maybe you could tell them exactly what it is and why the Horlick brothers became involved in this business way back in when?
It was the mid to late 1800s. They actually may have started working on the formula prior to the 1860s. That isn't totally clear. The reason they became interested in it was partly because their grandfather was a maltster, what was called a maltster, and knew about the malting process. But I think probably more importantly was the fact that several of their siblings had died in early childhood. And so they were focused on trying to find a formula, an infant formula, that would not require milk, because milk in those days could be contaminated and caused a lot of the death of a lot of children. The actual product itself involves a malting process of barley and wheat, and it's rather a complicated process, but they continued to work on that after they came to the United States, and it was really in the United States that this product took off as a formula for infants, but it was also for invalids. They believed that it helped with digestion, with insomnia, with if you had a toothache. It was supposed to be kind of a panacea for all sorts of health problems, and at that time it was known as a health food, not later as a confection.
Gee, I wonder if it works as a hair loss product.
On a novel by a man named